What's up guys, it's Lou from Unbox Therapy. Today I'm going to show you how to put an SSD inside of your MacBook Pro. I'm using the Vertex 3 and I'm also going to move my traditional hard drive over to the optical drive bay using this adapter. You'll need a Phillips number 00 screwdriver as well as a Torx T6. Use some decent ones because these screws are really easy to strip. You got to pull all the screws off the bottom plate. And like I said, I've used some cheaper Chinese screwdrivers before. And these aluminum screws on the MacBooks are just not happy with those kinds of screwdrivers. They get stripped real easy. So let's go ahead and remove the back plate and reveal the interior of the MacBook Pro. And as you can see, we've got the optical drive at the top side and the traditional hard drive down at the bottom. We're going to pull this 750 gigabyte hard drive out from this location and put it into our adapter. Now the hard drive is super easy to remove. It's just two little screws along the top side here. They're Phillips 00 screws and they're attached to this bracket piece. You can lift the entire thing out after you've got it unscrewed, of course. And put it to the side and then you can just lift the hard drive up and out. This is a lot easier than it used to be on older generation MacBook Pros. You got to remove the SATA connector on the back. Be careful with that. You don't want to tear the ribbon. Now, on the side of the traditional drive, you've got some screws that hold it in place when it's installed. You got to remove these. These are Torx T6 screws. Now, you're going to put those into your SSD once it's ready. And pull off that little pull tab and install that on your SSD as well. It's just held there by a little bit of sticky glue. No big deal. Just helps you get it out. So here are those little screws, the little feet. And we got to go ahead and install those into the SSD because it's going to be going into the traditional drive bay location. Again, these are Torx T6 screws. So once you get that all zipped up, put it to the side because we're not going to put it in straight away. We're going to wait till we've got the optical drive out. So here's that adapter. And this just basically allows you to put a 2.5-inch laptop drive or SSD into your optical drive bay. Now, the reason that I'm putting the hard drive into the optical drive bay and not the SSD is because on this particular MacBook Pro, the optical drive bay is only 3 gigabits per second, whereas the traditional hard drive bay is 6 gigabits per second. And of course, my SSD, being a Vertex 3, can utilize the extra speed of the other bay. So here's what we got to remove from the optical drive. There's these 3 connectors. And these 2 screws along the top will help you to lift up this bracket that holds some of the antenna wiring. And then there are 3 screws around the outside of the optical drive. These are Torx T6 as well. So after you've got those out, you can just lift this little bracket up. And that'll enable you to sort of get at this last Torx T6 down on the bottom side here. And then you can just pry the optical drive up and out. Just be careful with it. It's fragile. So we'll put that to the side. Now, the optical drive has a couple of connectors on it. These are going to be important. This is how we interface with the adapter. So you got to pull this little piece out here. And you've also got to unscrew the little backside bracket here. There's 2 screws there. You can see them. You got to pull that off and put that onto your adapter as well. So once you got that all hooked up, all you got to do is slide the adapter along with your hard drive back into that location. Line it up properly. Now, you don't have as many screw points on the adapter, so it might feel a little bit more loose than the original, but don't panic. It's definitely safe in there. So here's the Vertex 3. And this is the last part to get this installed here. Simply go ahead and connect the SATA connector. Push that in. And then align the little feet that you installed. Push those in as well. And then it should just drop down nicely on the other portion. There you have it. Now all you have to do is pick up that little bracket I mentioned earlier with the 2 Phillips screws on it. Zip that baby back in, and the Vertex is going to be secure as well. Now, since I don't have an optical drive installed anymore, I'm going to have to go ahead and install my OS over USB. Now that's okay because I've got a USB hard drive dedicated to OS installs. I'll show you how to set one of those up in a future video. Until then, we'll boot up to the traditional hard drive, the original 750, launch Disk Utility, then we'll select the OCZ Vertex, click on Partition. In my case, 1 partition is fine, you may need more. I'm going to call mine SSD. Then we've got to select the format type. Now some have suggested that journaled slows down an SSD, but it's going to give you a little bit of extra security, so I prefer it over an unjournaled partition. So once we've got that set up, we're ready for our USB install. And like I said, I'll show you guys how to do that in a future video. Stay tuned for benchmarks and more of this Vertex 3 drive. So far, it feels real fast.